For Neil Hamilton, is he safe, or will Tory Central Office now try to prize him out? Good evening. Matters in Tatton moved on tonight. Neil Hamilton is the Conservative candidate, and a defiant Martin Bell immediately said he'll fight him all the way, and he will be the next member for Tatton. So now the voters there will be subjected to a sleaze-dominated local campaign. We'll be hearing local reaction and asking if there's anything the National Party can do to lance the boil of sleaze. Also tonight, away from the traumas of Tatton, it was churchmen, not the politicians, who highlighted a major issue for the first time in this election campaign, the depths of the divisions between the haves and the have-nots. Tonight, in the first of our Millennium Challenges, the challenge is how to tackle poverty and inequality in Britain. A millionaire, a minister, a lone mother, a pensioner and a job seeker ask the politicians responsible for their party's policy how they'll deal with inequality in 90s Britain. As Zaire declares a state of emergency and descends into chaos, we assess the likelihood of the rebels sweeping the government aside. And the highs and lows of football as we continue on our mission to jog your memories about the changes great and small in 18 Tory years. First, the events today in Tatton have an enormous surreal air. First, a standoff on the heath between Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton and Martin Bell, and then tonight, news that the allegations surrounding Neil Hamilton matter not one whit to Tatton Tories who backed him. Martha Kearney is there.
And we thought this was going to be a dull election. In fact, it's been a day of high drama and farce. There was even a floodlit bowls match going on just behind me in the midst of the media circus and all the satellite dishes. But the climax came just over an hour ago. As the massed crews and press waited to hear if Britain's most controversial politician had survived, the first man out of the meeting was his arch-enemy, local party treasurer Tony Martin, who'd been plotting his downfall. He grudgingly announced that Neil Hamilton had won.
And 182 people voted to select him as the candidate. 100 people did not vote to select him as the candidate.
In fact, 35 had voted against, 4 abstained, and 61 didn't vote at all. A vote for a secret ballot fell. It had been a triumphant end to an extraordinary day for Neil Hamilton.
Look behind you, Mr. Hamilton.
Knutsford Heath, former haunt of highwaymen, became the scene of a modern political hijack earlier today. Tatton's most famous couple affected the air of ordinary voters.
Why are you gate-crashing this press conference?
We're perfectly entitled to be here. We are constituents and voters in the Tatton constituency, unlike Mr. Bell, who lives in Hampstead.
This is a stunt, isn't it?
What do you think Mr. Bell's candidature is? It's just a stunt. It's a media stunt.
Then, like an Old Testament prophet in white, the anti-sleaze candidate descended and parted the waters of the press.
You can't let me get at him. I can't meet him, can I? Excuse me. Get out of the way, boys. Okay. Come on now, let me call him, please.
He'd a hope this was the scrum of a lifetime. As the rivals eyeballed each other, Neil Hamilton was determined to goad Martin Bell.
Ready.
All I want to know
Have been for ages.
is whether you think I'm guilty of any corruption.
I'm not getting into the substance of the charges against you. I don't want to. I think it'll just be a counterproductive campaign, and it'll go down the tubes, and I hope you agree with me.
Do you accept that a man is innocent unless proved guilty?
Yes, of course I do.
So you accept that my husband is innocent?
I think there's a lot of...
Do you accept that my husband is innocent?
I'm not facing an ambush here. Let's just see what comes out. I don't know. I don't know. I'm standing here because a lot of local people have asked me to stand here.
On the sidelines, the political aggression was being mirrored.
Thank you very much. You first broken man. Finished. You're a very ignorant person.
Perhaps Martin Bell should have poured oil on troubled waters. He then started his own press conference by introducing a war hero.
I'm not here to make comment about Mr. Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton stands by himself. I'm here to support a friend of mine and someone I think will be a great MP.
It's all a taste of the campaign to come. In the past few minutes, Neil Hamilton has been giving a victory press conference.
Well, I'm extremely pleased by the result of the vote this evening. It's an overwhelming endorsement of my candidature.
The question now is whether the support Neil Hamilton clearly enjoys in his local party is representative of Tatton as a whole. And I'm joined now by two local councillors who are on different sides in the war over Neil Hamilton. Jim Crockett, doesn't it make it pretty likely now that the Conservatives are going to lose one of the safest seats in the country?
Well, I should hope not. You know, I've always been a staunch supporter of Neil Hamilton, and I think it would be very wrong for us to do anything else other than adopt him this evening. He's, in my opinion, innocent until he's proved guilty. And for a good constituency MP like Neil Hamilton, who's worked very well with me and the constituents, certainly in the ward I worked in, I'm sure in the whole constituency, I think it'd be a shame if we couldn't get him re-elected.
Even though opinion polls suggest that the so-called anti-sleaze candidate Martin Bell could do very well in Tatton.
Well, Martin Bell, I don't know, I don't understand this anti-sleaze candidate. Martin Bell is, I'm not sure that he's independent or anti-sleaze. I think he had an affiliation with a political party, and I think this is all a gimmick set up to try to upset our effort.
Jim Grimson, you're obviously disappointed tonight. You've been campaigning vigorously against Neil Hamilton. Haven't you just caused a lot of unnecessary resentment, bitterness, publicity for no good end?
It would have been very easy to do nothing, but in all conscience I am a staunch party member and a supporter of John Major, and my number one priority is to get John Major re-elected as Prime Minister. And I fear that what has happened here tonight gives him an even bigger problem.
Why is that?
He will constantly be taken away from the front page of the press by the continued involvement of the press in this issue of the one issue election which we now have in Tatton.
Well, if you feel so strongly about it, is there anything you can do? I know there's been a lot of talk here tonight about an independent candidate.
Well, that is not for someone like me to decide. I have no official status in the Conservative Party apart from being a member. But obviously Central Office need to look very seriously at this situation because we cannot allow it to cloud the whole issue of the election.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Kirsty.
Martha, if I could just ask you a couple of brief points. What do you think the chances are now of an independent Conservative candidate?
Well, I think there's a real head of steam building up for one. The Conservative rebels here in Tatton were very annoyed by the idea of having Martin Bell standing because they thought he'd be seen as a journalist, not terribly popular here, and also as a kind of lib-lab man. They would like the chance to put somebody forward independently who would take some Conservative votes away for Neil Hamilton and therefore ensure that he'll lose. So I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming days.
And in turn, will that, do you think, put pressure on Central Office, where we understand there are moves afoot to try and have Neil Hamilton stand down, even at this late stage? I believe there are certain things that they could do.
Well, I think constitutional experts say that the idea that the party nationally can't do anything to influence local associations is a moot point. There's strong debate about it. And I think this does put the national leadership in a very difficult position. On occasion, they certainly have been briefing privately against Neil Hamilton. We've even heard of stronger efforts against Mr. Hamilton. But what they've got to do is to make sure that the issue of sleaze is knocked off the front pages. This has been an absolute extremely difficult for them in the starting weeks of the campaign. And given the campaign's been so colourful, it's very difficult to see that all the assembled press here are likely to go away. And in fact, we know that tonight that there's already the publicity machine has got going, the local publicity machine, and there's these new posters which have just been printed, "No to Neil Hamilton."
Do you think...
Back to you, Kirsty.
Thank you very much indeed, Martha. Now, in fact, we can hear in the past hour that Dr. Brian Mawhinney, the Conservative Party chairman, has been giving his reaction to the vote in Tatton. He now confidently expects the voters of Tatton to endorse Neil Hamilton.
Mr. Bell, having made it clear that he is willing to give Neil Hamilton the benefit of the doubt, innocent unless proved guilty, it is then for the Labour and Liberal coalition partners with Mr. Bell to describe and explain exactly what this election is now going to be about in Tatton. But thank you very much indeed.
Mr Mawhinney, it still proves it's going to be a very colourful constituency during this election campaign. Now, when so many are living in poverty and unemployment, it's wrong to give priority to the claims of those